Hello, welcome back to another YouTube video, and as you can probably tell by the title, today we are going through ALPHALETE's January launch. This is drop 1 for them for 2026. It's launching January 17th at 12 PM CST, 6 PM UK time, so this Saturday. Code Amy will save you 10% off your entire order, and you can also enter my monthly giveaways that I run using that code. The details will be here and in the description below. Never buy anything that you're not asked about, you don't really want to enter the giveaway. The giveaways are there not to encourage you guys to go and buy things, but to just give back to people on a more regular basis who are supporting me. As always, I always like to make sure that I'm doing a non-code use related giveaway as well, because support can and has over the years been shown to me in many ways. I definitely do not believe the only way that people support me is financially, so I always like to make sure that I'm being fair with my giveaways. So there will also be a non-code use related giveaway. All you need to do is comment down below letting me know the item you are most interested in for this drop. I will pick 2 of you by the end of the week and get your vouchers sent over. I just want to say before I get into this as well that there are much bigger fish to fry in the world. Look at what is going on in Gaza, in Iran, look at what is going on in Sudan, look at what is going on in Congo. There are much bigger fish to fry in the world, and the last thing I want to do is sit and complain about first world problems, but I also know that people do want the information here, so I'm going to give you guys my situation and talk to you guys about it, because I've built an entire platform on transparency and honesty, and I'm not going to stop doing that now. That's something that's never going away on this channel. This is really, in the grand scheme of things, when you take a step back, an activewear brand making internal changes isn't the end of the world. You know, there's bigger fish to fry. There are much bigger problems in the world. I just want to acknowledge that before I get into it. Okay, I've kind of sped through my giveaways there. Normally I would flesh out my disclaimers a little bit more, but things that we need to talk about in this video now. Some of you are just here for the clothes, and you know what? I don't blame you, divas. That is so fine. I will pop a timestamp on the screen of where you guys are going to want to skip to for the start of this review. Every time I'm posting a question box at the moment, I'm getting questions about this side of things with ALPHALETE, so I am just going to address it. Gather round, it's time for a story time. Okay, the first thing that I would like to address is the loss of my role within the company. We were all let go from our additional roles that we were given. So I had a role to help with design, other people had roles to help with marketing, and every single one of those roles, they made the decision, I think they let us know probably about 2 weeks before Christmas, that they've decided to dissolve all the roles going into 2026. So no one has an internal role at the company anymore, and by default we all take a pay cut, but we were not sacked from being athletes or working from the brand. Now everyone has made their own decisions off the back of being told that. I just want to say I completely empathise. We were literally put in the exact same position when someone sort of pulls the rug from beneath your feet with not much warning. Subsequently, you are then taking a pay cut. I completely understand why you might want to step down to being an affiliate or just no longer work with the brand. I fully understand that, because I was really upset too. Story time about how I found out. I was actually in the middle of working on mini projects for them. Basically, they'd sent me over a bunch of questions asking me about trends, asking me about different markets, asking me about sort of certain brands and like why they're doing well, why they're popping up everywhere. Don't like to do anything half-assed, so of course I took that and I was like, right, spent the entire weekend making this like Venn diagram thing for them, and then I was sort of sinking my teeth into doing a bit of a deeper dive into specific brands and why they're doing well, and then I received a message asking for me to have a meeting the following day. I'm an anxious girly, so I was like, no, like if there is a possibility that we could do this right now. She said it's to do with the internal roles. I just knew. So that was the outcome of that meeting. I mean, it was funny because I spent my entire weekend doing work for them and I was literally in the middle of doing something else, but hey, I'm glad that I had the meeting when I had it and that I pushed it forward a little bit, because it meant I didn't waste any more of my time. Clearly there's not that much value in it, so let's just pack it up. And honestly, I was really upset. I wasn't surprised, honestly, because I don't know how anyone else's roles were panning out, but for me, I felt like feedback was not necessarily always being listened to. There were a couple of instances during the year that just really knocked me. That's all I can really say on that. The roles were under different departments, so it depends how willing that department is to have you super involved, and it depends how that specific department likes to work, if that makes sense. I do think it was a short-sighted decision. Because of those roles being cut, that has caused people to either step down from the brand or step away from the brand completely, and those people were huge huge athletes for the brand, so I definitely think it was a short-sighted decision. I was really upset. You know, I've had a long relationship with Alphalete. I've been with them for 6 years. At the end of 2024, I was feeling pretty stagnant. I was actually feeling like, if anything, I was going backwards, and I really wanted to grow within the company. That was what this role signified to me, and it was also a huge opportunity to have a more serious role in something that I am clearly so passionate about: activewear, design, product, quality, fit, the details. I eat it up for breakfast, lunch and dinner. I fucking love it, and it's so important to me as well, making sure that we have products for everyone. You know, I was so passionate about that, and that was really one of my main aims going into the role as well, was making sure that I'm not just pushing my own preferences all the time. I'm making sure that more sensible bras, and that doesn't just mean if you have boobs your only option is a high neck bra. You need something that's actually going to be able to contain them. Multiple length top options, multiple inseams when we're doing pants. You can't make one product that works for everyone, but as a brand, especially nowadays, I feel like you need to be offering a little bit of something for everyone, because otherwise you are completely excluding people from the brand. Even down to sizing, I've always said, especially with Alphalete Seamless, it runs incredibly small. All well and good telling people they need to go up 1 to 2 sizes, but if you're already at the top end of that size range, which they barely stock anyway, there's nothing for you to size up into. 2023 was when I really started putting together some documents. 2024, I actually did an entire pricing competitor research thing for them when they made those pricing adjustments. That was actually based off work that I'd done, not off my own back. They did ask me to do it, but like, that's not my role to be going through every single competitor's website and working out the average price for sports bras, the average price for shorts. And a lot of time doing that, but I was eager to do it and show that I wanted to do it, and I was willing to go above and beyond. Competitor research, looking at launch days, launch times, launch frequencies, sort of marketing strategy. How are they all marketing themselves? How is all the product looking? Entire deep dives into other brands, and I was already doing that. Yes, at the end of 2024, I spoke to my manager pretty openly about it. You know, I was sitting and watching people who do very similar things, or like in a similar line of work, getting certain opportunities elsewhere, and I was like, I feel really sad because it doesn't feel like Alphalete have that to offer. Lo and behold, January, the roles came around, so I was really excited. And yeah, when they dissolved it, I was upset without honestly even really giving it a chance. You know, we've been asking for these products for 3-4 years. I have documents from 2023 of me asking for them. I know that they're coming this year, finally. Again, it's just taken so long. But yeah, sometimes things don't pan out. I actually cried on the meeting, which was really embarrassing. I was very glad that it was just my manager on there, because that would have been really embarrassing. Although, to be fair, I did go on to have a meeting with other people, which I also cried on. So, and we're not just talking a little, we're talking full boohoo crying. Yeah, I was annoyed, I was upset, and off the back of that, I fully understand, because I've been in that position, fully understand why that would lead some people to either step down to being an affiliate or back off completely from the brand. I fully understand it, because it's very frustrating and it doesn't make you feel valued. And I also understand that at the end of the day, it's their company, it's not my brand, it's their decision to make. That's definitely given me food for thought as well. The second thing I want to discuss is the ongoing topic and discussion, diversity inclusion at Alphalete, but also, let's be so fucking for real, in the fitness space in general. There are very, and this is not me coping for Alphalete, they are not good when it comes to this. Through product, through marketing, neither departments are great in this regard, but it is a huge problem across the board in the fitness industry. Even brands that people do hold up and say are like super inclusive, done in a very shallow way. It's not necessarily done in a meaningful way, and there are very few brands that are truly inclusive, because inclusivity doesn't just boil down to who you are putting in your marketing. It comes down to your sizing range. Also comes down to the product that you offer. For example, bigger chest sizes in your campaign, excellent. You are showing different bodies, you are showing different chest sizes. If the bra doesn't actually work for you, contain a bigger chest properly, and it's still an itty bitty titty committee bra, and that's all you have to offer on your site, then that's not truly inclusive either. And this is something that I've been trying to push for on the design side of things, because in my mind, design and marketing go hand in hand when it comes to this. There is no point in having a super diverse and inclusive marketing effort if, when people who are, God forbid, above a size medium, and I'm saying that in a sarcastic way, just to be clear, do you actually stock those sizes? Do you actually stock a decent quantity in those sizes? Do you actually offer ETC friendly bras? Because if you don't, brilliant that you've had this diverse marketing effort, but then when they go to the website to buy the product, to follow follow through and be a part of your brand, be a part of your community, you don't have anything on there for them. So the two for me go hand in hand, and I would say ALPHALETE have equal issues on both sides. Let's not beat around the bush here. All of this discussion has very much come off the back of the lovely Michaela Anissa and her reel and her TikTok that she made, which I fully support, I fully stand behind. I have been on trips with Michaela where I have seen the impact that this has firsthand, and I'm not going to speak for her. If you want to go and watch her videos, then you are more than welcome to. Yeah, she made that video and it was like it ripped a band-aid off. Everyone's talking about it, which I actually think is a good thing because it puts such an intense pressure and spotlight on them to actually really do something about it. First of all, I just want to say this is not a new topic for me. I have been talking about this. If you go back to my hauls, I've been talking about this issue since 2021, and you don't need to clap for me for that. It's the bare fucking minimum, quite frankly. This is something I have spoken about on many occasions, externally, internally, and this is something that I have even spent my own time and money championing and trying to push things in the right direction. I did multiple sizing videos. I tried an entire birthday sale collection with the lovely Gabby, who was darker skin, which at the time, which they have made improvements with, ALPHALETE did not showcase any dark skin women at that time, which was 2023, I want to say 2022. I moved back home and those sorts of things aren't feasible anymore. I'm also in my parents' house. Like, I can't just have people coming round to film. I am in my family home. So that had to change and that had to stop. The point I'm making is I've been very, very, very vocal about this, and you guys don't need to clap for me. Like I said, it's the bare fucking minimum, but I just want to make it clear this is not I've been scared into talking about it and now I'm making it out that this is big thing. I have been consistent in pushing on this issue, and the reason why I respect Michaela so much for her video is because I have spent 6 years feeling the exact same way. For context, I am 5'6", but in the fitness world, for context, everyone is like 5'2", 5'3". People constantly telling you how tall you are, which for me, interesting phenomenon, because I'm 5'6", taller than the average American. I'm aware of that. That's been pointed out to me many, many, many times, trust me. In the UK, it's not perceived as tall. I'm very much normal height, and I completely relate to Michaela because I have never had the experience of being a face of ALPHALETE. I have never had the experience in my 6 years of the cycle of favoritism. Every brand does it. They have whoever's hottest right now for them and they will push them as like the face of the brand. Every single brand does it. Like, I've never experienced that from ALPHALETE. Barely featured on there, barely been asked to shoot. I've been asked to shoot 3 times in the space of 6 years, and I used to chalk that up to distance, but now I have other people to compare to, and you know, they might be on 3 times in a year, and I am so happy for those people because I would not want anyone to have the experience that I have had, because it's left me with so many questions. And I want to be clear, when I've brought this up to them, I'm always told it's nothing to do with the way that I look, but there's never really been an answer. And so for me, you are just sort of left with, well, they're not going to say it, are they? I'm still a skinny white woman, brunette hair, which feels like the pretty much standard for ALPHALETE. I don't want this to come across as though like they've not included me, they're not diverse. Babe, you're a white woman. I just wanted to touch on that because I do definitely completely relate to Michaela. I've never had that treatment at ALPHALETE. I've never been pushed as like a big face of the brand. I don't get asked to shoot often. As much as I am told it's nothing to do with the way I look, I do think it is. I do think I'm slightly taller than the other people. I'm not super, super muscular, but I'm also not super, super lean. I'm sort of slap bang in the middle. I don't have a crazy impressive physique either side of the scale. I also just want to say as well, this is something, the fact that I've never in shoots, is something that you guys have actually brought up in my comments, in my DMs. You guys notice it as well, and I would just like to say thank you, because as much as there is a slight embarrassment in that, I'll be so fucking for real, it's a slight embarrassment that it's that noticeable, that other people notice it, validates exactly how I have felt, because it's like, oh, I'm not overthinking it. It has, however, definitely made me question at times, am I just activewear reviewer, not model? Like, sometimes I do think maybe I'm meant to sit more on this side, which is also why I was so gutted about the role, because it felt like an opportunity to be able to actually like work in activewear and take the pressure off having to look a certain way and all that sort of stuff. So sort of another reason why I'm kind of gutted about it, because I've always kind of felt like I'm not model material, and I'm not saying that to fish for compliments. I've genuinely always felt like that. I don't actually think I'm hideous to look at. I just am
self-aware enough to know that I'm not the top 1% of genetics.
But I do know that they now have a new marketing team, so I am curious to see if that changes. Like if you go on the brand's page from the past year, there were some shoots, especially the ones that were organised by Kate Craig, way more diverse. But in terms of the shoots that were organised by ALPHALETE themselves, it was the same people over and over and over again who just so happened to be slim women who are incredibly lean, and that was pretty much all we saw through the entirety of 2025.
I just wanted to add, because I don't want what I've said there to come across in a bad way at all, because I don't mean it in a bad way, but this is nothing against those individuals, like nothing against them at all. In this industry, if you get an opportunity, you're going to take it. That's kind of how it works. You would almost be stupid to turn it down. Favoritism within the brand, whether it's issues with everyone looking the same, issues with shoots, whatever it is, I've always said it's not the individual's fault, it's the company, because it's them who are calling the shots. It's not these individuals. So I actually love those people. They are super sweet people, so it's nothing personal at all. This is about ALPHALETE, not the individuals.
I will say, however, that's also not a change. You know, they have been like that almost the entire time I've been with them. They have phases where they take 2 steps forward, but then it feels like we've done 2 steps forward, 3 steps backwards. I've given them suggestions on this over the years, doing multiple size try-ons, doing multiple size reels, making sure that we are showing off different skin tones, different ethnicities, different sizes, different builds. Ultimately, I do also feel like a big reason why ALPHALETE haven't been able to do that is because they don't always have the product, especially if you're going to get someone with a big bust. What bra from ALPHALETE are you putting them in? Like, they don't have the product, and this is why it's a twofold issue, and you can't have one without the other. They need to make drastic improvement in both areas. And as I have always been very vocal externally, internally about the diversity and inclusion issues, I will continue to do so. This is not a new issue. This has been going on even before I worked with the brand. Stand that this is all coming off the back of Michaela's very rightful video. I'm very glad, like I said, I'm going to keep saying it, that she spoke her truth in that video. But this is not a new issue for ALPHALETE. This is not something that's just cropped up this year. They do have a new marketing team in now, and I am very hopeful from what I've been told that changes are going to be made. But ultimately, like I said, talk is cheap. We're going to have to see if those changes are actually made or not, because otherwise it's just a whole lot of this. I just want to reiterate again, when I'm talking about my experience with the brand and not being asked to shoot, basically to back up Michaela's point, because I've had the exact same experience, and I feel like when I look at who has this experience and who doesn't, there is a clear pattern of a specific look, and that's nothing against those individuals because they look amazing and they should get the shoot opportunities. The bigger issues, of course, are bigger body sizes, bigger natural chests. It's showing different body shape, it's showing different skin tones, it's showing different ethnicities. And personally, I would actually be happy to never shoot again if they actually make drastic improvements in that department. And I'm not just saying that, I'm being dead ass serious. Okay, final thing that I just want to address is you guys. Honestly, the past 4 to 6 weeks has shown me what a beautiful community that I really do have, and I mean that genuinely from the bottom of my heart. I have been shocked by how supportive people have been. We all have different scenarios. You know, some people have already had other brands, some people already had other offers on the table in different capacities. Some people have families that can really support them through essentially what is months of unemployment if you are choosing to completely step down from the brand, or they have partners that can support them, and that's obviously incredible. But not every single person is in that position. I'm in the middle of buying a house. If my house sale falls through due to issues with my income, I lose thousands of pounds in solicitors fees, in surveys fees, in everything, and I also lose the house. And another thing is, honestly, and we can say what we like about ALPHALETE, okay, but the one thing I will give them props for is that they do allow their affiliates and their athletes to be incredibly honest about the products and also incredibly honest about the brand. Most brands do not allow that level of honesty. It's completely fine. I respect that. I actually think fair enough. It's your brand. You can run it how you want. And if you don't want to be giving money to people who are saying negative things about your brand online, you don't have to. It's not our God-given right to be able to make money from a brand through honest reviews. It's not. That's a very entitled way of thinking. The way that I review things and the way that I have built my community off such open, honest, transparent reviews boxes me in slightly, guys. It's very unique how much Alphalete allows people to say, to be completely honest. I will never forget when I first signed with Alphalete like 6 years ago. I got a message from someone on Instagram saying basically we can kiss goodbye to the honest reviews now, and that is something that has stuck with me, because one thing that no one can say is that pre-sign as an athlete Amy and post-sign as an athlete Amy are two different people. I mean, I look very different, my reviews are very different, and the way I do things is very different, but if anything, I've got more comfortable with being honest over the years because Alphalete have supported me with that. There's been a couple of things where they've been like, maybe don't say that. Broadly speaking, they have been very supportive of having honest reviews and honest feedback, and that doesn't always mean that they listen to it, and I'm very grateful to them for that, because they don't have to do that. They don't have to do that. As much as we all love honest reviews, like I said, it's not our God-given right as influencers to be able to make money off these things. The biggest mistake that I've made was relying on Alphalete to a point where it's actually put me in a bit of a tricky position. What I mean by that is when I got that role last year, I massively tapered down my coaching, which is something I've never done before. I've always kept my coaching, and my coaching has actually most years up until last year made up the bulk of my income. But when I was given the role last year, I wanted to, one, be able to take it seriously, but two, because I was essentially being paid for that, I didn't want to put myself in a position where I've still got all these clients, and if Alphalete come to me with something they really need me to do, I can't do it because I've got all these coaching clients, but technically they're paying me for this role. So it felt like the fair thing to do would be to taper down my coaching clients and go basically make myself very available to Alphalete for that role, which I then wasn't fully utilized for. I'm not going to put that on Alphalete. They didn't tell me I had to do that. I made that decision and I took that risk, and it was a risk that didn't pay off, left me in a bit of an awkward position, to be honest. That balance has completely flipped, and I need to build my coaching back up again, and that's my own fault. I made the wrong choice, and it's been a learning opportunity to learn to never put all your eggs in someone else's basket, because you need to support yourself first and foremost. Everyone's situation is different, but I just wanted to thank you guys for how kind you've been over the past few weeks, to be honest, and I feel like I owed you a bit of an explanation on things, so I'm hoping that this has maybe cleared things up, because the one thing that I am not going to do, not be able to give full authentic reviews. I'm never going to give that up. If Alphalete ever turned around to me and were trying to make me sign something that meant I couldn't give honest reviews, I'm not signing it. That would be me gone. I will never ever 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 sacrifice what I have built my entire platform on for anything, because it's pointless to me. This is what I built this platform off of. This is what I felt like I was missing when I was looking for activewear reviews. Yeah, I'm very 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 sad that I'm not going to be working with certain people anymore, and I just want to say again, thank you so much. And I know that this might be maybe frustrating for some of you guys, or you feel like I'm not taking risks when I need to, or I don't know, I just feel like some people might be disappointed in me, and I really hope that no one feels that way, but I made my bed when I started doing these honest reviews, and you've got to lay in it, but we're going to be fine. We're literally going to be fine. I'm going to focus on you guys this year. I'm going to focus on keeping being honest with my reviews, keeping being as vocal as possible as I have done for 6 years, and working on my coaching a bit more again as well, because that was a big learning curve. Some of you will be like, I don't give a fuck about any of this. I literally just care about the clothes, and that's completely fine. But I do know I have a community of people who do care about diversity side of things. You do care about how people are treated, and I completely understand that. And I also just want to say I massively appreciate you guys for rocking with me and sticking with me. I did not realize how many of you guys just don't buy Alphalete anymore, and you haven't been buying for a long time, but you still watch my reviews and you still like my vlogs, even though I'm an exclusive athlete for them. That kind of blows my balls, to be honest. It's been nice to have a reminder that I feel like I needed, that people aren't here for Alphalete. Some people actually just like watching me for me and my activewear obsessed brain. We're gonna see how this year pans out, but you guys have my word. If major changes are not made, I will be out of the door, and they know that as well. I've literally said that to them. So okay, so we're gonna get into this drop. This is not my favorite drop in the world, which is, oh, double whammy, not good. Revive is back, which I'm really excited about. The rest of the launch, it's the tops, and this is what I'm getting at. And I'm not saying every drop drop is going to be inclusive, but like they haven't had an inclusive drop of tops in so long that it's just like, this is how we're starting 2025, guys. It's frustrating. I'm going to pop my measurements on the screen so that you guys have got them for reference, and also my like fit preference as well, so that you guys know how I like things to fit just when I'm comparing things. I'm going to get into it. So color comparisons first and foremost. Let's talk about the color palette for this drop. There is a dark gray. I'm going to pop it on the screen here. I didn't get anything in it because I don't really tend to like those shades of gray on me. I didn't have any room in my order because we didn't get a ton of picks for this drop. Revive is back. We've mainly just got this color palette and then the dark gray. First color that you've got coastal blue, which is a returning color. This has already dropped in pump and it's pretty much the exact same. Now, because this has that like smooth seamless fabric as opposed to the like waffle texture on pump, doesn't match 100%, but it's very, 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 very close. So you don't need to be concerned. Maybe if you wanted to get the push tank in coastal blue to match your pump shorts, you don't need to be concerned about that. Yeah, this is a very unique shade of blue. Found myself not reaching for it a ton because I'm finding it quite hard to pair. It actually doesn't go with that many colors that I wear frequently. It only really goes with black and white in terms of the tops I wear the most. So just something to be aware of is it's not the easiest to wear. Then we have cashmere, which again, this is a returning color. We've got a few different cashmeres now, so I'll pop on the screen this one compared to contour. Contour is a totally different shade of cashmere. This is closer to the tenacity cashmere, but it's slightly different. It's actually a little bit darker. And then to compare it to espresso from the pump range, this is actually a little bit warmer. Cashmere is a really nice color. I do like this shade of brown. Definitely my most worn of this Revive color palette. Last time the Revive color palette was so stark. It's nice to have some more wearable colors this go around, and this is just a classic for me, a classic chocolate brown. So this is deep navy. I wish they'd have named this something different because now we have deep navy, dark navy and dusty navy. But yeah, it's obviously not as dusty as whale blue and not as dusty as dusty navy. It's a little bit richer. I would say it's like a darker version of Trusted Blue from the Contour collection in my opinion. So yeah, this is deep navy. And then we have brick. This is a new color. It's not a returning color and also very different. The only color that this is close to is Alphaletes Fireside. If you remember that from the 2020 original drop of Amplify, you're a real OG. It's basically that in a slightly darker, non-mild version. Color name is very apt, brick. It's literally that brick orangey red shade. It's like a rusty red. It's much more wearable than colors like Times Square, which were a bit more stark and a bit more vibrant. So this is much more wearable in my opinion. Suits me. Like this is definitely in my color palette. I also just don't wear these sorts of shades a ton, even though it's probably the best one in this color palette for my skin tone. I don't find myself reaching for these sorts of shades a ton. I do feel like brands generally don't drop colors like this often. These rusty sort of shades are hard to find, and I feel like it's because they're quite hard to get right. I would say this is probably their best, up there with Fireside for me in terms of the rusty red orange sort of shades. And then just to touch on like the sweat sort of shades, we do have 3 heather grays now, and I want to point this out because if you were going to get the hoodie from this drop, the staple hoodie, to go with your heather gray cargo joggers, they are 2 different shades of heather gray. So as you guys can see, the heather gray in the cargo joggers is much darker. This new heather gray is slightly lighter, but it's still giving prison gray. It's still giving prison gray. We've still not been released from the shackles of that shade yet. And then we have the heather gray in the lounge, which is again a different gray. It sort of reminds me of Storm Gray that Alphalete did a couple of years ago in Amplify, but they're all called heather gray and they're all totally different. So just keep in mind, if you're wanting a matching set, get the staple hoodie with the staple joggers that are dropping in this launch. If you get the other joggers, it's not going to match. They should have named them differently in my opinion, because if you're not watching reviews, the colors kind of do look similar on the website. They are not the same shade of heather gray. They definitely should have had different names. Okay, into the first product, we've got the Amplify crop long sleeve. This is a returning product. If you are an OG from like 2020, 2021, you will remember these. They did a couple of drops of these in various different colors and they are bringing them back. Seamless fabric blend, 54 polyamide, 41 polyester, 5% elastane. Now obviously they've switched to these tags. You don't have anything to pull out, which I actually actually find so much better. Tags really annoy the shit out of me, to be honest, and even when you rip them out, I feel like they leave behind an itchy residue. So I'm really happy that Alphalete have switched to doing this, and hopefully they do it for most of their items going forward. I do think it's a much better way of doing things. So to get into the details, up top you've got this sort of standard neckline. You have these diagonal seams, which are definitely my preference for tight fitted gym tops. I just think it gives it that more sort of athletic look. It makes your delts look really good. It shapes you really nicely. I know that some people don't like it because they feel like if they've got bigger boobs it makes them look more busty. For me personally, I do really like these diagonal seams that they use on these sort of style top. Long sleeve, there's no thumb hole, it's a tight fitting top. Got a little mini ribbed band around the bottom, but it's got plenty of stretch to it. It's not super tight or super snug or anything like that. There is some slight detailing on the back, just some little ribbing shaping detailing. Alphalete on the front here in a sticker logo, which I never had issues with my old ones, but I feel like Alphalete sticker logos are getting worse and worse. So I kind of have no doubt that this is going to end up peeling off in the wash. So fabric wise, like I said, it's that seamless fabric blend. These are definitely on the softer side for their seamless. These definitely are thinner than the Hali top, and they're also softer than the Hali top. So if you found those too restrictive, too compressive, whilst it's the same fabric blend, these are definitely much more comfortable. Now you will remember, if you've had these before, that for example like the orange one I'm about to show you from prior, there is massive differences between colours in how these fit. I only picked up one of these because I just don't really like this style top anymore, so I can't tell you which ones are tighter and which ones are stretchier, but there has always been differences between colours in this top. Like I have the pastel range and those are super stretchy, and then I've got ones in rainfall from like the OG drops that are a lot stiffer and a lot tighter. The white is pretty stretchy, to be honest, but you do need to be aware because it is that silkier, softer sort of fabric. It definitely will be prone to pilling, so if you're, you know, in the gym with dumbbells and barbells and stuff and the wrist catches, it probably will pill, so you do need to be aware of that. In terms of the white being see-through, it is completely see-through. These are light, they're breathable, they're easy to train in. To compare these to the original ones, they are pretty much the exact same. The only differences I've noticed, and keep in mind I'm comparing a small to an extra small as well, so my original one is an extra small, my new one is a size small. This is technically a bigger size, but there are certain things that are smaller. So the seam on the armpit here, I do sort of actually get this weird gathering around the armpit area that I don't get in the old ones. It does create a tightness under the armpit, and also just creates this sort of like weird bulge here, if that makes sense. And the other main difference is that the sleeves have been shortened on these. Then I've only got one to compare, so maybe I've just got a fluke, but I'll show you guys side by side so that you can see there's definitely been changes made. In these new ones, I would definitely recommend staying true to size. I think if you're between sizes, you should definitely go a size down because they do have stretch to them. But for me personally, I would recommend that you stay true to size in these. In terms of sweat, they are not sweat proof. They do show sweat, but with it being a thin breathable fabric, I do find that it dries pretty quickly. Bottom band isn't compressive, like it doesn't super dig in. It's actually pretty comfortable, to be honest. When you do move around, it does obviously bunch up, it moves up, you need to keep pulling it back down, but that's pretty much standard for any sort of top that is like this. I do just find the sleeves being shortened and the armpit seam a bit annoying, to be honest. I definitely do prefer the original fit compared to this one. Again, I don't know if it's a fluke, but I definitely think it's worth mentioning for you guys. In terms of length for this is like a standard crop length. It's not an ultra crop, it's not a meet and greet length, it's a standard crop length, so it's gonna cover the bottom of most sports bras for you and then some. It probably hits about 1 to 2 inches above my belly button on my body, and I've got an average torso. I just have a higher sitting belly button for reference, and I love it. For the people that love it, this is just not a product for me personally. I think I would probably either be more inclined to wear this rolled up as a bolero or super cropped bra, because this length crop on me with Alphalete's high compression bottoms, I just basically look like a busted can of biscuits. It's not a flattering length on me. Full length would have been amazing. I appreciate that this is a nod to the past. I appreciate that there are some people that are still gonna love it, and I love it for the people that love it. But for me personally, if this was releasing 5-6 years ago, I would have ate it up for breakfast, lunch and dinner. I appreciate that it's nostalgic for people. For me, my style has evolved since then. I don't really wear tops that are this length anymore, and I feel like honestly, if they were going to do this, it would have been better if they'd have done at least another option on top of it of a full length version at least, so then you've got a crop and a full length version. This is not something I'm going to be reaching for, other than wearing wearing it to test it. I've not worn it since I got it. It's definitely not my style. And whilst I see what they were trying to do with like a bit of a nod to the past, really see products like this being used by a ton of people anymore. Easy to sit and be like, you know, you reminisce on the glory days of Alphalete of like 2020 to 2022. But the reality is, if they re-released the products that they released in those years again, they wouldn't have the same impact that they had in those years, because we're 4 years on. People have moved on. People's styles have evolved. Customers have grown up a little bit more. People's tastes have changed. I feel like trends have changed as well. There is nothing wrong with the quality of it, and if you like this style, then absolutely go for it. For me personally, I don't love this, and if I'm being brutally honest, I do actually prefer the original ones, because I prefer a slightly longer sleeve, and I also prefer the way that the armpit fit. It just feels outdated, and considering all we get is tiny bras from Alphalete and tiny tops, it would have been really nice to start the year off strong with a full length. Do you know what I mean? Like, bringing this back in a full length version would have been so nice, especially in a drop where the two top options are not really BTC friendly. Again, this is what I mean when I talk about diversity and inclusion. Doing diversity up the wazoo on the marketing department, like, that's all well and good, but ultimately you need to have the product to actually put people in, and you need to have the product to back that up, that multiple bodies and multiple people are going to feel comfortable in, especially because Revive sizing as well can be really tricky. Another drop where it just feels like it's only being designed with one body type in mind, the body type that they spent the entirety of 2025 shooting on. Okay, the next product that I have to show you, the Verge bra. I'm gonna be honest, it actually just feels a little bit embarrassing to be doing this review right now off the back of all the discussion, diversity and inclusion and stuff, and this is the only bra option that we've been given. I also want to say, before I get into reviewing this bra, I understand that not every product is made for me, and not every product will be made for a bigger chest. I don't need every single product to work for me. The issue that I have when it comes to Alphalete's bras is there isn't other options. Like, it wouldn't be a problem to do this bra if we had another bra in the drop, or at least other bras on the website of an even split, like an actual effort to make bras for different cup sizes. People have waited a long time for Revive to come back. It's not dropped since, this is the first time it's dropped since last February. It's almost been 12 months, and some people, Revive is like Marmite, you either love it or you hate it. It's really frustrating that now that it's finally been brought back in kind of a more wearable colour palette, the only options are basically for itty bitty titty committee and people that are comfortable wearing a crop, and that's not everyone. Even if you're comfortable wearing a crop, it might not be your taste. I'm not saying that this bra doesn't work for me, therefore it shouldn't exist. It's just a building frustration because I don't even have another bra that I can recommend people that's going to match with these Revive shorts. Like, I'm not hating on the IBTC ladies. I've been there. I used to be IBTC before I got plastic shoved in me. Even the bras that I like that are on the more minimal side but have a bit more coverage, they don't work for natural bust. This is the Verge bra. It's this super teeny tiny square neck sort of style bra. I'm going to compare it to some other bras in a second, but it's not quite as wide as the minimal halter, if that's what you were curious about. You then have the sticker A logo on the front, which I honestly don't really love, and if they are going to do it, I wish it was tonal, but I know that they can't put it on the back with this because it's like there, but I think even if you're going to put it on the side, it would have been a better option because just peel off anyway. And I have noticed that it's left a heat mark on the blue. There's sort of like a box around the A logo as well, sort of like what was happening with the pump shorts. Can you see there's like a box outline around it? It's then very flat at the bottom, so it doesn't have that usual sort of, I feel like it's become signature for Alphalete to have a curved underbust detailing. This one doesn't have that. It's then very similar to the Aura strappy at the back. You've got two straps here, it's a lot narrower, and then you've got two adjustable straps that come over the shoulders, and on a size medium full adjustability, I believe these are 16 inches, the amount of adjustability within these straps. These do come with padding, but the padding, even in the medium, which is a bigger size, doesn't fit in the bra. So I have a small and a medium in this. The padding doesn't fit in the bra. If you put this bra on with the padding in, it folds over on itself. If they're gonna do bras this tiny, they at least need to make smaller padding that actually fits in the bras, because I also feel like people that tend to prefer having padding in a bra tend to have smaller chests. So if you're gonna make these bras for the IBTC ladies with smaller chests, it would make sense to make padding that they can actually wear with them, seeing as though they tend to be the people that want the padding more. But yeah, it does come with padding, but it doesn't fit in. Even in a medium, it literally doesn't fit. And when you wear it with the padding, it almost creates like a hump here. The fabric blend on this is the exact same, percent polyamide, 38% polyester, 11% elastane. And it's sort of a smooth, seamless fabric that's slightly fuzzy. I will say there's major differences between colours, and I'm going to get into this. I'll explain it further when I go over the flares. Based on my experience, for the flares and the Verge bra, I would really avoid the colour cashmere. I don't know if I just got a dud one, but this is literally how my bra arrived. If it's not showing up well on camera, I'm going to put pictures in. But it literally arrived like this, totally fuzzy everywhere. It looks honestly like, you know, when strappy bras were becoming really popular, I bought some off AliExpress. That is literally what this fabric feels like. It arrived like this, completely pilled. My coastal blue one, fine, it's a little fuzzy, but it didn't come pilled like the other one did. It's definitely much softer and much less durable than the Revive bottom. All of the browns are like this. I don't know if they are. I would definitely skip on this because it does not feel worth the quality at all. It honestly, it doesn't even feel like an Alphalete bra. Whilst I'm on the topic of quality, even the like slots for the padding just don't look finished. Can you guys see what I mean? Like they just look really low quality. And then the other thing that I really don't like about this bra, both from a finishings point of view but also comfort, it does impact like the wearability of it, is this bit here. So this is where the strap obviously meets the rest of the bra, and it creates this bulk. Straps have a lot of bounce, a lot of give, but this little bulk bit here doesn't really have much give to it at all. It's very solid, and so it really digs into the trap. And it also just creates a bulk. It doesn't look very flat when it sits on body. Thin tops as layering pieces over my sports bras. This just really bugs me when there's a knobbly bit there because it doesn't feel like it's been finished properly. And Alphalete normally don't have this issue. So the fact that they've got this issue on this bra combined with everything else, it just feels quite rushed to me. So yeah, fabric and finishings, I'm actually not very impressed with this bra at all. In terms of sweat, this bra does show sweat, but it does dry pretty quick. In terms of support, this bra offers no support whatsoever. There is literally no support in this bra. It's definitely a low support bra. In terms of coverage, this is definitely a minimal coverage bra. It's definitely made for AB cups, itty bitty titty committee bra, which again, it's not a problem. Have those options. It's just the fact that we don't really have other options, which is getting really frustrating. It has this like internal seam that runs around the bottom of the bra, which does actually do an okay job of keeping it in place along the bottom because it does have a little bit of a seam there. But what I find with this bra is it slips down at the top, so it does lift up a little bit and it does expose the bottom of my boobs. But then if I pull it down enough so that it doesn't do that and so that the seam sits in the right place, first of all, my nipple is nearly out, but within a couple of movements my nipple is out. And because I'm having to size up to a medium in this, which I'll get onto in a second when I go over sizing, I'm also getting gaping when I bend over, so I'm very much nearing on a nip slip for me. This doesn't really stay in place well. It gapes because I'm having to go a size up and it's too big for me then. It just doesn't really work for me at all, to be completely honest, which again, it's not made for me, so fair enough, whatever. So to get into sizing, I got this in a small and a medium. I cannot do a size small in this bra. The pain on my trap in a size small is insane, especially with that stiff little knob of fabric. It's so uncomfortable over my trap, so I cannot do a size small in this bra. With the size small as well, I also just don't get enough coverage out of it. You get about 0.75 inches more coverage when you go up, and the medium offers enough coverage. It just doesn't really stay in place and it's a bit too faffy because the medium then doesn't fit. So the small, in true Alphalete seamless bra fashion, which I know that some people don't have issues with the sizing at all, but I feel like their seamless bras run so small. So the size small, which would be my true to size, is way too small. Like it's so tight around the back, it's tight over the neck, it's just too tight, and it's also not enough coverage. To a medium, which then feels loose, I feel like I'm not held in, I'm getting gaping. So for me personally, this bra just doesn't work at all because I can't do a small and I can't do a medium. I would say this bra really does only work for my itty bitty titty committee. If you are interested and you are IBTC, I would say you can stay true to size for a nice snug fit if that's how you like things to fit. But if you are between sizes, definitely go up, not down. If you go down, it's going to be so tight around your back. Now, in terms of comparing this to some other bras, I've done a couple of trial try on clip. So to compare it to the Aura Strappy, this one actually has less coverage. The center coverage is actually more on the Verge bra, but the side coverage in terms of that top of the strap to the bottom of the bust is less on this because it doesn't have that curved detailing. It's flat across the bottom. Sizing wise as well, medium compared to medium, this one does run a lot smaller, so just be aware of that. If you found the Aura Strappy sizing too tight, definitely go oversize up in the Verge bra. In terms of the Axis bra, they're very kind of similar in terms of coverage. The Verge bra, because it is square all the way across, you actually get a little bit more coverage in the center. The Axis bra, I have to wear a medium in order for it to actually cover my boob, and I would definitely pick the Axis bra over this one, but I don't love either. My preference out of those two is definitely the strappy bra. In terms of comparing this to the Amplify Minimal Halter, this one doesn't have as wide a neckline, so if you found that neckline to be too wide for you but you liked how minimal it was, you might get on with this bra really well. Because the minimal bra has that ribbed stiff band all the way along the bottom, whereas this one it's a bit more open, it has the cross band and it has a bit more stretch to it and bounce on that bottom bit. This one definitely isn't quite as tight as the minimal bra, so if you found that one to be way too tight, this one actually isn't as bad as that one on this front, but it's definitely on the snug side. So yeah, that is the Verge bra. Spoiler alert, I'm not a huge fan of this bra. I'm just not impressed with the quality or the finishings on this bra at all. I think the fact that the padding doesn't even fit in the bra, which they keep having this issue. You would think if we're going to go down the super tiny bra route, we're at least going to make some padding that actually fits in the bras. If that's all we're going to do, let's at least commit to it. I would be really disappointed if I had ordered the cashmere one and I'd received that. It does not feel like a £40, however much it's going to be, bra, to be completely honest. And yeah, I just really want to see ALPHALETE giving some options. It's all good and well doing these bras. Like I said, I don't want like a super high coverage bra. Just because someone has boobs, it doesn't mean they want to be covered up to the neck. I'm just asking for a little bit more fabric, and I understand that my smaller chested ladies want the super tiny bra, but at this point we have so many, it would have been nice to have had at least one drop with a bra that can actually give people coverage. So yeah, if you are IBTC and you like the look of this bra and maybe you're not super bothered about quality on items, maybe my brown is just a fluke and you've watched other reviews and you're realizing it's just a fluke, stay true to size for a snug fit. If between sizes you're going to want to size up, I would say this is probably, especially with the quality issues, like I just can't quite get over how bad the fabric on this is. This is probably one of my least favorite bras that ALPHALETE has ever done. We're starting 2025 off strong. Okay, and then our final top option is the push tank. The push tank is coming back again. Fabric blend on these is the exact same as all the other seamless items, and we just have 51% polyamide, 38% polyester, 11% elastane. I've reviewed the push tank to depth, so I'm not going to go over it super in depth. I've reviewed it a few times now. You can go and check out my other reviews for more depth on it. I will mention a couple of changes, but yeah, you have this sort of curved underbust detailing which is built into the top layer of the tank, and then you do actually have a built-in bra underneath which has a ribbed bottom band. You get about 5 inches space in this based off a size medium and a size small. I've had both. It doesn't go up between a size small and a medium. So you get 5 inches of space within the shelf liner, which isn't a ton of space at all. But this sort of underbust detailing, like shapewear for the chest almost, is built into both layers, so you sort of get the double whammy push effect. That's why it's called the push tank. Then you just have these little spaghetti straps which come over into adjustable straps with tonal adjusters, which I do really like. I did like the original gold ones, but these ones they're okay too. They're not awful. And then coming into the back, you've just got the A logo on the back, which again, don't personally love. It's a sticker logo. It will probably come off. Don't come with padding, and there's also nowhere to insert padding because it's a single layered bra. So you could try and put padding between the bra and the layer of the top or against your skin, but you can't put padding within the bra itself because it's a single line shelf liner bra, if that makes sense. In terms of length, it looks really small, but it does stretch down to be about meet and greet length on my body with a sort of high-waisted bottom. They've changed, printed in details they're now at the bottom of the tank top instead of they were on the side of the built-in bra before. Quick thing to note, which I had noticed with the last round of push tanks, the straps on the last round of push tanks were really poor quality compared to prior on what I received. The stitching was completely off and they just weren't as high quality. These ones are a little bit better. I wouldn't say they're quite as thick or as sturdy as the true original straps, but they're not as flimsy in my opinion as the last drops ones were. This is definitely low support just because of how booby it is. It doesn't actually offer you much support, so I would say it's more of an errands top. I personally, because of how low cut and how side booby it is, I don't feel comfortable training in this, but if you have a smaller chest, you probably will. This has definitely been made with smaller busts in mind, even down to only having 5 inches of space in here. I get these in mediums because I cannot stay true to size in this top. It runs incredibly tight, and what I will say is with my other mediums, and I'm hearing this from multiple people this time round, measurement wise there is no difference compared to my other mediums, but what I'm noticing is that this brick colour, I've heard it about the cashmere one too, the fabric is a lot different than some of the other push tank colours, and so it does feel even tighter. The bottom band feels even tighter, the bust feels even tighter, the waist feels even tighter. So normally in a medium I'm getting a really tight bust but then it's loose on the waist. This time I'm getting a really tight bust and it's actually more fitted on the waist. Like when I look at this, it no longer even looks like a medium on me, but it is a medium. I highly recommend, if you are interested in this, that you get a size up. It runs snug, and from what I'm hearing, especially with the brick colour and the cashmere colour, these seem to be running even tighter, I think because it's much more dense colours this time round maybe. I would only stay true to size if you are incredibly tiny, incredibly lean, and you really like a super compressive fit. I don't love the push tank just because I don't find it super flattering. The straps kind of drive me insane because they twist and roll off my shoulder. It's very low on the chest. The straps sit very narrowly into my shoulder. I feel like accentuates the broadness of my shoulders, which I don't personally love. I get a lot of side boob because of how narrow it's cut in here, wide around the side of the bust, so I get a lot of side boob in this as well. I just don't really love the push tank, but I know that some people love it. If you love it, I love it for you. If you bought it last time and you were disappointed with the straps like I was, they're not quite as bad this time. They're still not back to the original quality in my opinion. They still look a little wavy and a tiny bit thinner, but they're definitely not as bad as the like canary yellow drop of push tanks were. Quality on it feels really nice. I just don't really like the fit, and I find the sizing to be a bit off. Okay, now I'm going to get into Revive. Have similar details between the leggings and the short. I'm going to talk about them sort of interchangeably, but then I will compare the legging to the pump legging and the short to the pump short, because the last time when I reviewed pump originally, I compared it to everything. Revive, I compared it to everything, but pump wasn't out yet. So if you want Revive compared to Amplify, Contour, all that sort of stuff, last year's February review, because I did it in depth then. Revive is another seamless bottom from Alphalete. It's sort of a play on their OG Revival leggings, but to be completely honest, it's nothing like the original. Closer to Amplify than it is the original Revivals. It just has this sort of detailing that the Revival leggings had. But this is Revive. We have the 5-inch, it's not 5-inch, seam short coming, and I think it's a 25-inch inseam legging, but mine are 24 inches. The inseam on the shorts is actually 5.5 inches on all of mine. Other than my medium, I do have a 6-inch inseam on those. Baby biker almost in terms of the inseam. Contour, Amplify, they all have slight differences in terms of the compression level and how tapered they are versus not tapered, but they all have that same thick, dense ribbing that's very close together. When it comes to Revive, it's actually much more spaced out, so it's not quite as intense, if that makes sense, but you still have 3 tiers. So lower compression, moderate compression, higher compression. They're not as densely packed, which is meant to lead to it being less compressive, which I will get onto. In terms of the rise on these, I would say they are anywhere from moderately high to ultra high. I definitely wouldn't say these are as high as some of Alphalete's other bottoms, like the original Contour. Even though they measure the same, this fabric is denser, it's stiffer, so you don't get as much vertical stretch. So naturally, even though it measures 9 inches like an ultra high rise Contour does, it doesn't sit in the same way because the fabric is denser and it cannot be stretched up enough. Why you need to take measurements with a pinch of salt sometimes, because it can measure the same but fit very differently. On me, these are pretty much a true high rise, I would say. And in terms of the rise, the extra comes from this distance here between the bottom of the waistband and the top of the gusset, because the waistband is 0.1 inches longer than Pump and Amplify. Other than that, it pretty much lines up perfectly. So the extra rise comes from this portion here. Then you have this little bottom band, 5.5-inch inseam, ribbed detailing on the side. You also have some curved detailing on the waistband at the top here, which sort of swoops around the front. Coming into the back, you've then got the Alphalete Forever stitched in logo. And with Revive, it also sort of, you see how it's kind of in a box? Definitely more noticeable. It stands out a little bit more in my opinion as a result of that. The Revive scrunch, which is basically the same as Amplify or Contour. You've got the 4-row scrunch here. So with Contour, you have this like feed in at the top. But with Revive, it actually feeds in a little further. So you'll notice if you compare this, the scrunch starts a lot higher. It doesn't have as much feed in. So even though the scrunch space on Revive is about 4 inches based off of a size small, so it's slightly longer, the scrunch starts lower on the butt because it has this extended feed-in portion, which in my opinion does make it sit in the glutes nicer than some of, like, for example, Amplify Ultra High Rise Contour, because it has 4 inches, so it's a little bit longer than things like Pump, for example, but it's a lot more discreet because you have this thinner scrunch, and it also starts a bit lower, so it just helps it to sit nicer in the glute. So it does have a baby butt lift built in. So this is the obviously inner portion of your glute. You can see here it has a slightly different texture, and where it almost like creates a mini pocket, and I would say the inner third of the glute, it goes from a higher compression fabric here to a lower compression to then normal throughout the rest of the leg. So the aim of that is to give you basically a mini inner butt lift. I will say it doesn't do much, but it does definitely give a nice little lift. And if something like Pump that looks a bit more obvious and in your face and intense is too much for you, and you might actually like Revive. So those are really the main details. And then with the shorts, obviously it's a 5.5-inch inseam, and then in terms of the leggings, it's basically the exact same. The details just go on for longer. And I will also say when it comes to the leggings, they don't actually sit quite as high rise on body because the leg on Revive is so tight, because the fabric is dense. You've got a lot more rib detailing on the leggings as well, which in my opinion just makes the whole thing a bit tighter, like it runs around the shins, and you've also got it all down the quad. It makes the leg fit a lot tighter. So in my opinion, even though they measure the same, the leggings do sit a bit lower on body because they just can't be pulled up as much. That's generally the same across the board between shorts and leggings. Leggings tend to sit a little lower because it's like a big long tube of fabric down your leg, and especially if the fabric doesn't have a ton of stretch, it can't be pulled up as much as a short can because there's too much tension pulling it back down, if that makes sense. But yeah, other than the slight difference in rise, you've got a 24-inch inseam on the legging. Issue that I get with the leggings that I don't get with the short, underneath that butt lift portion, I get like a wrinkling just underneath, like sort of where my hamstrings meet my glutes. Even in a size small, and I definitely couldn't go a size down in these, prefer the shorts over the leggings, but that's pretty much standard for seamless products for me from Alphalete. But those are really the main details. And just to reiterate on rise, I would say the leggings are kind of mid to high, and the shorts are more going to be high to ultra high depending on obviously your torso. So whilst I'm on fabric, this short has the exact same fabric blend. Alphalete use the same fabric blend across all seamless bottoms, but they all have slightly different textures. So to compare this to Amplify, I would say this is denser than Amplify and it's denser than Contour. It doesn't have that same sort of tight, like endless stretch to it where it literally feels like pantyhose with Contour. Revive is definitely on the thicker, denser side, and it's also not as soft. So I find Revive up there with Pump for me in terms of durability. Coastal Blue, this is Cashmere. Revive is just a lot denser than Amplify and Contour. However, if I'm going to compare it to Pump, Pump has that waffle-like texture. Revive still maintains that jersey knit texture. So I'm pretty sure with Pump, it's a PK texture in terms of the seamless fabric, which is more of like a waffle style feel. I'll put like a macro lens picture up so that you guys can see. Revive has that more sort of standard seamless texture, so it's smooth. Instead of it being sort of knitted almost like it's crossed over, it's knitted more straight. So hopefully you guys can see there what I mean, which just results in a smoother feel. But this is definitely much more durable than Amplify. It's much more durable than Contour. It definitely holds up a lot better. I would say it's up there with Pump for me in terms of the durability on the fabric, and it also means, let's go into squat tests, that this does perform a lot better in terms of squat tests. So all the colours for me, other than Brick, I think are pretty good and would be good for anyone that has tattoos as well. The only thing to be aware of with Brick, which I think is what's making it worse, is the fact that Brick is an incredible incredibly tight colour. Definitely runs, I would say, the snuggest out of all the colours that I've got, which is obviously going to mean that it's going to stretch out a lot more. And also leggings always tend to be worse than shorts in terms of sheerness, so that's just something to keep in mind. But other than that, the rest of the colours I would actually comfortably wear on a leg day with nude underwear. Nowhere near as bad as the sheerness you get on contour. Now, whilst I'm on fabric, let's just go into some quick colours. They all are pretty stiff in my experience. The only exception, deep navy. This is actually a bit softer and a bit stretchier. It really reminds me, if you got Revive last year, this reminds me of my purple. Was actually a lot softer than my other colourways. Like my Palace blue was super stiff, my red leggings were super stiff, my black was super stiff. Blue actually feels a bit softer, a little bit on the thinner side, and I feel like you can see that here. It definitely has a little bit more of a softness to it. Other than that, the other colours are incredibly stiff, so keep that in mind. No concerns about pilling on any of these colours other than this one, just because it does feel on the softer side and it's definitely on the thinner side as well. But the rest of the colours all feel pretty stiff and pretty dense, to be honest. In terms of camel toe, I don't really get a super bad camel toe in these. And in terms of sweat, they do show sweat, but I find that they tend to dry quite quickly, so keep that in mind. It's not really a major issue for these. If you live in a hotter climate and you find pump to be way too thick, you actually might prefer Revive. Even though it's a different vibe, it's definitely not as warm as pump is. Okay, so let's get into the fit and sizing when it comes to these. I got the leggings in a size small, and I definitely should have got them in a medium. I don't have a medium to compare. I ran out of room in my order. I would have loved to have gotten a small and a medium. Size small brick leggings run way too tight in my opinion. I almost wasn't able to get them on. In those, I definitely needed a size up. I would say if you really love compression and you don't mind struggling to get a legging on, you can stay true to size. But if you are between sizes, or you really don't want a high compression feel around your legs, your glutes, even your waist on the brick colour, I would definitely recommend that you go a size up. I have the black ones in a size small and they're fine. They're tight, but they're fine. The brick ones I almost didn't get on. And in terms of the shorts, I got small and medium. Annoyingly, my medium is in the deep navy colour, which feels stretchier anyway. In the shorts, I actually do prefer a size small because to me, they don't feel quite as tight. They're definitely still snug, but they don't feel quite as like suffocating. I think maybe because the fabric isn't all down my leg. So I actually do like a size small in the shorts. Maybe it's because in the medium, in the colorway that I got the medium in, it's just a really stretchy color, so it just feels not too big, but I don't really feel like I'm getting, you know, the lift that I want out of Revive when it comes to the size medium that I picked up. So for the short, I do prefer a size small. But again, I would advise you, even saying I'm staying true to size, if you really don't like compression, especially based off the feedback I got last time, I think it's safer to size up in Revive. And if you are between sizes, never ever go down in Revive. You should always go a size up. Awkward when it comes to getting it on, which brings me on to the fit. In my opinion, the fit of Revive kind of works the opposite way to how most people probably want a seamless legging to work or a seamless short to work, but I actually really like it. My experience, Revive is tight in the leg, like across the board generally it's pretty tight in the leg, but the way it's not loosed, it still has compression. It's not quite as compressive or as dense as things like Pump or things like Contour or things like Amplify. It's definitely not quite as dense as that, so I find this to be more comfortable, especially the short. The leggings I 100% should have got a medium, but I actually find this to be much more comfortable on the waist. Any of ALPHALETE's other seamless options, if I try to go to the gym on a night time with Pump on or with Contour on and I've had a full day of eating, I am so uncomfortable, it makes me nauseous because it's so tight. The weird thing when it comes to Revive is that I'm saying this, they are probably harder to get on than Pump when it comes to the waistband, because this just doesn't have any horizontal stretch to it whatsoever. And you will actually notice, you can literally see the bottom of the waistband, this bottom band that runs across the bottom of the waistband, which all of their seamless bottoms have. But this waistband just doesn't have that same horizontal stretch as the other waistbands that ALPHALETE have to offer. It's just so much stiffer. When you get these out of the bag, they're not as tapered as Pump, for example. Based on a small, Pump is 9.5 inches, this is 10.5 inches. It's not as tapered on the waist or body. It has more of a wide fit, but it just doesn't have this horizontal stretch. So they're really, really, really hard to get on. And especially if you have really thick thighs or really big glutes, you're probably not going to enjoy these. I think because I'm more of a middle of the road sort of build, I actually really like these. Yes, they're a bit of a bitch to get on, but once they're on, I find this waistband much more comfortable. I do think they should tweak the waistband to make it easier to get on and to make it more comfortable across the board for everyone, because it will make it a much more universally liked product. The main telltale sign for me is, and I'm going to put them in side by side, if I include a clip of me sitting down in Pump versus Revive, you can quite clearly see Alphalete's normal contour amplify squeezes my waist in a way that Revive doesn't. I find that Revive, their tightest point is through the leg. The leg is very tight. It doesn't have much give to it. I actually like that because it doesn't flatten my glutes. I find it actually lifts them, especially because the shorts have that like longer inseam. It gives that sort of biker lift effect. And you've got the added mini inner butt lift, which doesn't do much, but combined with the longer inseam, when you manually roll the short, they are incredibly flattering on the glute without looking like you've got a butt lifting short on. They're a lot more subtle in my opinion. And then in the waist, they're not as compressive. They're more comfortable. And I know it sounds weird because it doesn't have as much stretch as the other ones do, but it also isn't as tapered. It's more wide cut off body, glutes, huge thighs, and a really tiny waist. Insane level proportions. You will probably get gaping on the waist with these. I do find when I squat that the waistband actually gets a little bit of a gape down the back, which I don't get with Alphalete's other seamless. And I know from speaking to people that bought them, super tiny girls were finding that they're getting gaping on the waist. It's not as tapered cut and it is a stiffer waistband, so it doesn't sort of have that shape retention to it. I do think they need to alter that to make it better fitted, but still keep it tighter in the leg, more moderate compression on the waist. TLDR in terms of the fit for Revive, across the board generally, bitch to get on because it doesn't have much horizontal stretch to the waistband, less of a tapered waistband fit, not as snug when it's on body compared to others, but it's much tighter and denser in the leg. Whilst I'm on the topic of Pump, I'll just compare the short and the leggings. So to go over the leggings first, obviously Pump has two rise options, this only has one. It's not quite as in your face glute flattering, but it still does have a nice little perkiness to the glute, but it's not quite as in your face, and you've obviously got a completely different scrunch. I actually think the Revive scrunch is really underrated. I actually think it's one of the best scrunchies that Alphalete have, even though yes, it's similar to the other scrunchies that they do, because it has that longer feeding portion. I think it sits better on the glutes, and because it's skinnier, it actually works a lot better in terms of like a subtlety point of view. But in terms of Pump, that's obviously a much thicker, more in your face scrunch. If you're wanting the full shebang lift, I think you will probably prefer Pump, but if you're wanting something with a bit more leg detailing and something that's a little bit more subtle, tighter in the leg, a little bit less compression through the waist, you'll probably really like Revive. And then in terms of the shorts, Pump obviously has the 5-inch inseam based on a small. These are a 5.5-inch inseam, so these are actually a little bit longer. The waistband obviously is different leg detailing. This one has a lot more leg detailing in terms of that ribbed paneling, which Pump doesn't have. And then obviously the shorts, you've got the full butt lift, whereas this one just has the mini inner third, and obviously the different scrunch again. Especially when Revive is hiked up, I do think it's a very flattering option, and I do think, I don't want to say it looks just as good as Pump, but especially if you're wanting something a bit more subtle, I do think it's nice. It just depends if you like the look or want to deal with the look of all that fabric sort of pulled up the leg. I personally don't mind it, but I know that some people won't like it. Now speaking of leg, on the shorts, the leg opening, because of that denser fabric, it is snug, and when you do roll them up, it's a lot of dense, thicker, tighter fabric, and it's snug, so keep that in mind. It can be very tight on the thigh. I would say Revive is probably up there with Pump in terms of tightness on the thigh, maybe even a little bit more snug, to be honest. But yeah, it's a very unpopular opinion. I do really like Revive. I think we've been done kind of dirty again with the colour palette for it, to be honest. It's not a bad colour palette, but the only one I probably have been reaching for a lot is actually Cashmere. For me, I feel like Revive and Pump are definitely my top seamless options from Alphalete, and if you are someone who wants to give something a go, higher level of durability than Amplify, it's not quite as intense as Pump, but it has a tighter leg with a less tapered waistband, definitely think Revive is worth the go. Especially the shorts, when you roll them, oh my god, like your glutes are going to be like, I do like Revive, but It is an unpopular opinion. And if in doubt, just size up. Hoping that they make tweaks to the waistband, because I think, again, it will just make it a lot more inclusive of a product. More people are going to be able to make it work for their bodies and actually be able to get it on. Okay, so next up we have the Amplify flares, which are making a comeback, and these are actually dropping in regular and long inseams. Whilst I am very happy to see, because the last time they dropped these, they only did one inseam, they are starting to offer multiple inseams. We need to make sure that we're still offering things for short people as well, because when I get onto the joggers, you guys will see like the regular is long, so I don't know what short people are meant to do. You can go and get things hemmed, like it's much easier to hem something than to give it extra length. I do understand that, but I just think, yeah, we definitely need to make sure that now that we're doing the inseam options, we've got 3 so that the short queens are not left out, because even with the flares, I'm pretty sure the regular inseam, which I wasn't able to pick up, is still pretty long, but these are coming in a regular inseam and a tall inseam. I got the tall one, and these are 35.5 inches in a size small on my tall flare pant. To reference the original flare pant that I have, those were a 34-inch inseam, so the tall is longer than that one. If you are a tall girl and you tried that and it was too short for you, these are longer than that one. Fabric blend, again, it's ALPHALETE's typical seamless fabric blend. Again, my flares are completely fuzzy. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but like they are completely fuzzy. They arrived like this. I've actually not washed them yet. Basically out of the bag, already look pilled. They just feel really, really bad. It feels like the Verge brass. I don't know if I've just been incredibly unlucky, but I do think it would be a bit of a coincidence. If I had paid full price for these and received them, I would be furious at this fabric quality. I know that there can be differences, batch variances and stuff, but if something is coming off of the production belt and it feels like this, it's not right, and it shouldn't be put in a bag, because it genuinely, these do not feel good at all. Imagine your fluffiest Amplify legging that you've ever had and times it by 10. Like, these genuinely feel so insanely fuzzy, and they are the polar opposite to how my birthday launch flares from last year feel. Those were like really slick. It is still on the thicker side in terms of the fabric feel, but it's just so fuzzy. Only color that I got, so I don't know if this is just how the flares are. I can't tell you guys that. So they have the typical 3-tier Amplify waistband. In terms of rise for these, I don't know if they meant to, but mine are actually very different to last year's. So last year's were definitely high to ultra high, 9 inches on the rise, and they had a good amount of stretch to them as well. This time they are 8.25 inches on the rise, and they hit me more like a mid-rise. So I would say if that's the same across the board, the new ones are more mid to high rise in my experience, but again, I've only got one pair, so I'm not entirely sure. And then you've got this mesh panel down the side. It doesn't have the gravity detailing, so it doesn't come to a point. It comes to that sort of blunt end down the side. And then because it is a flared pant, you actually have an extended gusset that runs through the bottom of the legging. Obviously starts up here around the coochie area, and then it basically gets wider and comes into a flare in the middle. You can see it when it's on body, like if you go to the side and like sort of pop your hip and stick your leg out, you will notice the inside of it. But from what I have been told, unavoidable to not have that on a seamless flare. Like, it needs to have it because it comes out of a tube, and without it, you're just making a legging, you're not going to be able to make a flare out of it. So that's unavoidable. I don't think it looks the best, but it doesn't bug me, and especially in darker colors, I don't think it's that noticeable. In terms of the back, you've just got the ALPHALETE logo in the forever stitching, and then you have the typical Amplify scrunch. Based off a size small, the scrunch space is 3.5 inches, so it's very typical to basically any size small in Amplify. I wouldn't say it's a super short, you know, it's not like the contour that was like 2.5 inches on the mid-rise. Definitely got that standard sort of glute space, and also it's a typical Amplify 4-row scrunch, so it has a lot of stretch to it as well, which means that on body it sort of stretches out and it has that shiny appearance to it. I wish that there was a way, I think it's the elastane that makes it shiny, for them to make it less shiny. It's like sort of sat better and it was less obvious, but you're not going to get like a cat's bum hole sort of appearance with this scrunch. It does have stretch to it and it is shiny, so it is a bit more more noticeable in my opinion. And then in terms of the actual inseam, like I said, these are 35.5 inches in the tall, and these are plenty long enough for me. In terms of the flare, it's definitely more of like a baby flare. On me in a size small, it flares from just above the knee and then comes into a very small flare. It's not big, it's not super wide. Because it's a seamless fabric, it has quite of like a gathered look. It's a very small flare, which I don't love a flare on my build, but I actually don't mind this flare on me. I think it's quite flattering. I much prefer like a smaller flare. The only thing I honestly wish is that it was even smaller, like it clinged on the card and then was like a super small flare, but maybe it's just my legs and I don't have enough card. For me, it does flare from just above the knee. It could also be a length thing. Maybe if I'd got regular, it would have clung for a little bit longer. In terms of squat proofness, this is actually pretty okay. If you have tattoos and stuff, I do think under harsh lighting, you will be able to see it when you're squatting. But for me, where I'm not going to train in it anyway, it's more of an errand thing. So for the brown, you're completely fine. I can't speak on the blue or the black. You will have to check other people's reviews for that. I'm not entirely sure. And in terms of like riding up, these really don't. They kind of stay in place and you don't lose any length on these. You only really need to consider your inseam and what shoe you wear. You don't need to consider, like you do with a straight leg or a wide leg, how much it's going to ride up. I do think the regular will probably still be too long for short people, so we definitely need an additional inseam there. I appreciate they tried and they've added another one, but we just need one more and then we are there with these. In terms of sizing for these, I stayed true to size with a size small and it fits me nicely with, like, I would say the waist is like a moderate level of compression. So I would definitely say to stay true to size in these. If between sizes, you can size it however you want. If you really want to be ultra snatched and that's how you like things to fit and you're between sizes, you can go down. But for everyone else, I just think with Amplify and Seamless in general, if you are between sizes, you're probably going to be better to go with the size up. Tall for me is perfect with trainers, it's perfect with platform Uggs, and so I'm pretty happy with this size small, tall length. In terms of do I recommend them? Yes, if it's your cup of tea. I can't say that Amplify flares is something I've worn a ton. I've definitely worn these more because I now have them in a more wearable colour. The last colours that they gave us these in were just so bright, quite hard to wear. I'm really not impressed with the quality on these. I'm hoping it's a fluke. You guys are going to have to check other people's reviews or ask around, but for me, the fabric on these genuinely really not good. I wouldn't be happy to pay any price for these, to be honest. Arrived basically pilled, so I'm definitely not happy, and I think with washing and stuff they're just going to get worse and worse. There's no reason for clothes to be arriving at your door pilled. But yeah, hopefully it's just a fluke. I hope that they're able to add another inseam option. Flares I've seen on the market, I do think these are the most understated looking ones. Next we have two brand new like sets of products from Alphalete, and then we are done with this review. So these are the cloud sets, and these are basically a brand new lounge set from Alphalete. I'm very happy to see them moving into doing lounge stuff. I feel like they are really lacking, but I do feel like something that lets them down in this is sometimes the execution, but also color palettes. Like even with the tracksuits, I'll get onto that, but like we're still in prison grey territory. I feel like it's the little details and the color palette selections that they make that let them down. But I think it's because, especially with sweats, they always want things to be unisex. Like the women's sweats would perform so much better if they weren't always trying to make sure that things can be unisex. I just think they would perform so much better. Like if we get some nice colors in the mix, blackberry purple, burgundy, nice like rich fall tones that we could have had, and then going into spring, duck egg blue, baby pink, lemon sort of shades, like really pretty women's shades. Branding, like sort of varsity style stuff, or even beyond varsity style, like different graphics, different logos you can play around with. These are definitely a women's only item. So I'm going to start with the cloud t-shirt. Fabric blend on both of these items is 65% rayon, 30% polyester, 5% spandex, and it's basically, in terms of feel, it's sort of like a soft ribbed, it feels like cotton but it's not. I will say it has like, when you've washed it, it almost has like a squeaky, it's like if I chewed it, it would squeak. That's the sort of texture that it has. They're a lot softer when they first arrive. Once you wash them, they go a bit weird. I don't actually love the fabric after washing. It definitely feels a bit squeaky and a bit like, I don't know, like nails on a chalkboard kind of fabric. But straight out of the bag, they are super soft. It's basically a very light ribbed feeling fabric. I will say, and I was talking to someone else about this, I do think it would have been nice, especially because I've seen the price point for these and they're not cheap. It would have been nice to have seen some like cotton in the mix, sort of really soft, and also more leaning towards natural fibers sort of fabrics. I think it would have been a really good opportunity to do something with that. We didn't. This is what we've ended up with. And I will say, I don't know if this is a testament to Charlotte's body butters, but I put my Delina scented body butter on and then I put this set over it. I've washed it twice and it still smells like Delina. Now I don't know if that's because of Charlotte body cream or because this fabric clings to smells, but that's something to be aware of as well, is it's been washed twice now and it still smells like Delina, but it's a much thicker neckline up here and it also sits a little bit higher, and then it comes into these tiny capped sleeves. Like, they are way smaller than the baby tees. The measurements are a lot smaller. The distance from here to here is shorter, and then that armhole on these, on a baby tee it's 5 inches, on the cloud tee it's 4 inches, and it also has this detail here where it sort of crosses over under the armpit, so can you guys see? It's just a single layered fabric. It's a little sheer. I would say you should wear a bra with it unless you're not bothered about people seeing your nipple, and then it comes down into a sort of meet and greet length just past belly button sort of height, curved bottom detail. You've got the A logo stitched in on the left hand side here and it's tonal. I don't love it, but you really can't see it, so I'm not too bothered by it. I do like the concept of like a comfortable women's lounge top from ALPHALETE. For me, this misses the mark, and I've spoken to people who didn't size down in it and they have also said that it's way too tight on the arm. On this is so tight. I sized down to an extra small, which I definitely shouldn't have done. That was a mistake. I should have stayed true to size, but because it has so much stretch here, I feel like if I'd have got a small it would have been loose around the waist because it has so much stretch to it. So I sized down, but it's way too tight. Like, it really digs into my armpit in a very uncomfortable way. So whilst it's made for comfort, I actually find it really uncomfortable. And I have spoken to other girls who got it in their true to size and they've had the exact same issue. Arm opening is definitely a little snug on these. In terms of comparing this to the baby tee, obviously the fabric is totally different. This is like a light ribbed high stretch fabric. That one is like a cold to touch cotton rip with some spandex for the stretch kind of fabric. It's much thicker. Both have cap sleeves, but that one doesn't have the cross detailing, and it also sits a little longer on the shoulder. Also a lot more comfortable. It's not quite as high neck. They have different branding, so there are differences between the two. The length is pretty similar, to be honest. The cloud tee is slightly longer. You will find with moving around and stuff, this one, just like the baby tee, it does hike up a little bit. For me personally, I just don't really love this. It's not super comfortable. It's not like awful, but I just think it's definitely not a top pick for me, let's put it that way. Also just don't really love this shade of grey. I wish they'd done like a slightly lighter grey. They've also done it in the brown as well though, which is a really pretty colour. But yeah, for me this is actually a pass purely because of the arms, and also I feel like it's something I'd want to wear as a matching set, but I'm really not a huge fan of the bottoms. If you are interested in this, I would say to stay true to size. I wouldn't size down because it's going to make that armpit situation so much worse, and just accept it's probably not going to be body fit, but if you size down you're going to make your armpit situation 10 times worse. Okay, and then we have the cloud pant, which I feel like I feel like such a miserable cow for this because everyone is raving over these. Maybe I've just had a bad experience, but before I get into the details, fabric, it's the exact same as the top, but as you guys can see, mine have completely bobbled already, and I've only worn them around the house and they bobbled before I even washed them, so it's not even like I've put them in the washing machine with something that's made them bobble. They did this within about 2 days of me having them. I'm definitely not very impressed with the fabric quality on these, and they're not cheap either. Like, these are with a discount code about $54. They're not cheap, they're quite expensive for a lounge pant, so for me there's just no excuse for that to be happening. Again, I put these on after using my Delina body butter. I've washed them since and they still really smell of it, so this fabric definitely does cling to a smell. Details, they look insane when they're off body because they look kind of like maternity pants, although I guess if you are pregnant these actually could be a good maternity pant because they're super comfortable, they're very loose, they're very stretchy, but it's obviously super long up top here because then the intention is obviously that you will roll it over and wear it as a fold over lounge pant. They do have a front seam, and the hip detail in here, it sort of curves upwards, and then they have a front seam. The front seam is 7 inches based off a size small, and the top of this waistband on me sort of hits me belly button. I would say maybe like an inch below my belly button. Some people, it will obviously depend on how you are built, but 7 inches isn't actually like a ton of room. I find that it hangs low enough on me to not slice me. I've seen other people complaining that it's too short and that it's really cutting into them. Normally I'm very camel toe prone, and these look like they're giving me a camel toe because of the front seam, but they're actually not. It's because the front seam is so short, and then because of how drapey the fabric is, it sort of drapes either side, but the seam is short, so it makes it look like I have a camel toe, even though I don't. Be aware that is 7 inches based on a size extra small. And then in terms of the back, it's kind of irrelevant, to be honest, because it's a fold over lounge pant and it's not meant to be super glute flattering. This is 11 inches on that glute seam at the back, so they're very, 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 very long, and significantly longer at the back than they are the front. They're a wide leg pant. They're definitely not a straight leg. Even cling under the glute on me. They're much wider than the Aura wide leg pants, and they have a really bouncy fabric, so they really sort of drape very nicely. Single lined, they can be sheer, and they are very long as well. So in terms of the inseam on these, mine are 33.5 inches, which doesn't seem like a lot, but because of how drapey the fabric is, it's almost like you get extra inseam out of these, but mine are long. Now that brings me on to issues I've seen people having. I have seen people get this pant with one leg shorter than the other. Catherine M, that happened to her. I know she's going to talk about in her review, so keep that in mind. I've seen people get the grey and they're plenty long enough, but then they get the brown and they're way too short. Both legs are the same, but they're like 2 inches shorter in the inseam. I'm seeing people have major issues with inseams on these. If you want to take a risk, take a risk. I would not be spending $54 on something where there's a chance I might get 2 totally different inseams between legs on the same pant. If I'm ordering 2 pairs, I'm going to get 1 pair that's long enough and 1 pair that's ankle swingers, because I know that some girls have got the grey and they're plenty long enough, but then they get the brown and they're super short. For me, there's no difference between legs. My pair are actually fine. Just because I've not had an issue, it doesn't mean other people aren't. If you are short, I think these are going to be way too long for you. Like, even for me, they're dragging on the floor, like they're dragging underneath my foot, which I don't mind because I'm wearing them at home. But again, we've only got 1 inseam option. They do also have the tiny A logo just stitched in here, but it's super not noticeable, and if you scrunch the waistband over enough, you can't even really see it. You can basically hide it. Going on to sizing, these fit really big in my opinion. I could honestly do with doing an extra small. I tried these on in Texas in a size small for the Black Friday shoot because one of the girls really liked them and she was like, you need to try these on. I actually didn't love them, and I still don't love them now. I tried on a size small and they were literally falling off me. Like, these run really big, so you need to go at least 1 size down. I've got an extra small. I wish I'd got a double extra small, to be completely honest. The only thing you need to consider is that crotch seam is probably going to get shorter and shorter and the more you size down. If that's an area of concern for you, maybe only go down 1 size, not multiple. I'm happy with an extra small, but I'm seeing them on other people and they're really hugging the glute. I'm not getting that at all because this is too big a size for me to be able to get that in. So these are a very relaxed fit, very wide leg. They sort of shoot off right from the upper thigh. When you walk and stuff, the crotch does ride up a little bit, which can be a bit uncomfortable with that front seam. I honestly don't know why there's a front seam on these. I think they would have been a lot better received without the front seam, without the inseam issues, and without the fabric that they've used. I'm not seeing anyone else complain about it, so maybe I've just been unlucky, but mine have completely bobbled, and they'd completely bobbled 2 days into me wearing them. Not really a direct comparison, but if you got the Aura fold over flares, for example, and you were curious about how these compare, totally different. These are a lounge pant. Aura were definitely for lifestyle or for training in if you wanted to do so. They are a much snugger fit. I'm going to show you them in a size small, but I needed a medium in those because the fold over was much tighter. Fold over wasn't as slouchy looking, it wasn't as long. You weren't able to get it to sit as nice. Those were a flare and these are a wide leg pant, so they're also a different fit through the leg. And in terms of washing, they haven't shrank in the wash. But yeah, in terms of would I recommend these? No. I know that's a really unpopular opinion. They're comfortable for the price point. The fabric blend, the pilling issues, the inseam issues, the fact there's a front seam on them can't justify the price point considering my experience with the quality of these. Yeah, they're basically pajamas. They're definitely not something that I think you're going to want to leave the house in because they are very thin and the light hits you. People will see whatever it is that you've got going on underneath, so just be aware of that. That's the cloud set. Okay, final items. We have the staple sweat sets, which are coming in a hoodie and then a I'm not even going to say straight leg, it's a wide leg jogger. I am happy to report this might be, quality wise, before I get into it, one of my favourite quality hoodies that ALPHALETE has ever done. This is definitely their warmest hoodie they've ever done, and I just really do like the weight and warmth of this. For context, it's been snowing in the UK the past week, and yesterday me and Twinkle Toes walked to Morrison's. I wore this with a vest underneath and the joggers and a coat over the top. Usually in most hoodies they're so thin that it's not warm enough. I was not cold. My hands were cold, but my body and my legs were not cold during that walk. These are definitely on the warm side. So that said, if you live in a hotter climate, you will probably hate this, and I'm hoping that this is a start of ALPHALETE sort of listening to my strategy for sweats of sort of, I propose that they work out like a proper sweat strategy. I feel like where ALPHALETE go wrong with their sweat sets is it feels like throwing stuff at a wall to see what sticks. They don't have consistent ranges that they then bring new seasonal colours in, or consistent fabrics that they then do like a cuff, a wide leg, a straight leg, different styles in, a zip up, a quarter zip, a pullover hoodie. They don't have that. They just would try random stuff, and it felt like for the women's sweats in particular, and there's nothing wrong with this as an option, but they were always really fussy and really hyper feminine, and that's fine, but not everyone wants that. Just because you're a woman looking for a tracksuit, it doesn't mean you want a hyper feminine design or a cropped hoodie, manly looking tracksuit in a women's fit. So yeah, I basically propose that they spend more time working out like different fabrics that they like. A lighter one for people that live in lighter climates, a heavier one, maybe a more moderate one, maybe different textures. Like some people like the terry feel, some people like the fluffy feel, but then building out those ranges properly and offering different styles in them, doing seasonal colours rather than making new sweats every year where the fabric's totally different, the fit's totally different, nothing ever comes back. We don't have like a wide colour palette in things. It's always felt like throwing something at a wall to see what sticks when it comes to ALPHALETE sweats. So with the staple sweats, you have the fabric blend 55% cotton, 45% polyester. So if you got the staple cuff joggers from Black Friday or the staple crew neck, basically the same fabric as that. So it's super nice and almost like a bit brushed on the outside. It really does remind me of Aritzia's sweat fleece more than anything, because it has a soft feel to the outside of it, and then on the inside you've got this really soft brushed fleece kind of feel. It does leave lint, but it's not too crazy. In terms of shrinkage, I've actually found, my mum has put these in the dryer, thank you Deborah, but they've not shrank too much from doing that. And I know from my other set that hasn't been in the dryer that if you just wash them as per the washing instructions, they don't shrink. This is a staple hoodie. This is the heather grey colour. This is still where, like I mentioned at the start, it's not the same heather grey as the cargo joggers. So if you want a hoodie to match that, it doesn't match. It's not quite as dark as the previous ones that they've done. I just really want to see a significantly lighter one that's a bit creamier. I don't know, it's not awful, but it's still prison grey and I'm tired. Release me from the shackles of prison grey. It has this hoodie which has no drawstrings. It has the crossover detailing at the front, so there's no drawstrings on it. So if you do like drawstrings, it's an L, but if you don't like them, it's a win. And the hood itself is warm, it's thick, it's double layered. This is miles above like the core hoodie, the Unity hoodie. This is significantly warmer and sturdier. Like the hoodie actually has structure to it. So it then has a slight dropped shoulder, just comes into an oversized sleeve, cuffs at the bottom, which also feel denser than previous ones as well. And then you also just have a kangaroo pocket, which is lined with the fluffy fabric on the inside for a nice bit of hand feel, cuffed at the bottom. So the fit on this, it does have the cinch at the bottom with that bottom ribbed band. It's not completely boxy. It does definitely have a bit of shape to it, but it's not super cinched. And then in terms of branding, you've just got the raised rubber logo on the front left chest. It's very small, honestly. From Black Friday's drop, every single one of my logos that's like this has peeled off in the washer. So if you don't like the logo, it peels off anyway. So it doesn't really matter. You're going to get a zero branding hoodie. You can see it peels off really, really, really easily. So I got this in a medium and I'm honestly pretty happy with the fit. It's obvious obviously for sizing gonna depend how you like a hoodie to fit. I personally prefer a much more oversized fit. These are definitely not as oversized as the core hoodie, for example, which I remember getting in a medium and being like, fucking hell, this bitch is huge. These are definitely not as oversized as that. It doesn't sit as sort of flimsy as that one did either, which makes it feel less oversized, if that makes sense. So if you, with the core hoodie, for example, found that those ran massive, so you went true to size or a size down, I would say you can size up for more of an oversized fit, but it completely depends how you like your hoodies to fit. A size small fits me. It's just nowhere near as oversized as I want it to be. I could definitely do a large, to be honest. The one main issue that I have with this is the neck is so tight on it. I thought it was just an issue with my size small, but the medium has it as well. It's not quite as bad, but it's very tight. It definitely needed to be widened. Because of how tight it is, it's sort of, because of the weight, it shifts back and it feels like it's kind of choking you out. I definitely wish that the neck opening was wider, because one, it's very hard to get on, to be honest. Two, it's just quite snug and a bit like, not to use that word because I know it's really annoying, but quite overstimulating, to be honest. And especially when you have a hoodie. Guys, I am the patron saint of a heavier hoodie, but when you have a heavier hoodie and it has the heavier hood to it too, you need that wider neckline. Otherwise the hood can end up sitting a bit funky, which I feel like this one does sometimes because the neck is too narrow. It needed to be wider so that that structure can sit better around here, especially for women. We've got hair. You don't want it to be so narrow here where it's kind of fucking with your hair, if that makes sense. If they'd cut it wider, and I know this because I own other heavyweight hoodies, you don't get that same issue. But yeah, I would also like to see a better color palette for sweats. This isn't awful, but I just want to see a better color palette, and I want to see playing around with like different ways of doing the branding and stuff. By far the highest quality hoodie that ALPHALETE have ever put out. It is definitely, it's probably the highest, one of the highest quality items they've put out in a very long time. I'm really impressed with it, but I just think it would have been really nice to kick off like having more women's sweats with better color palette and some more interesting branding. But I do appreciate that it's completely plain, so if you don't like branding, you are gonna absolutely love this. But yeah, the only other thing I think I would add is just a reminder that this is very warm, so if you live in a hotter climate, you are not going to like this. I personally really love how warm it is, but if you live somewhere warmer, it's going to be way too hot for you. In the market for a warm, high quality hoodie, I do recommend this. I just wish we'd got a better grade. Okay, then we have the staple matching wide leg sweatpants. In terms of the details for these are basically kind of like a wide leg version of the staple cuffed jogger in terms of the details. So the fabric is the exact same as the hoodie, 55 cotton, 45 polyester. So you've got that nice sort of soft feel on the outside, and then on the inside you've got that nice brushed fabric which is super soft against the skin. And again, the weight on these is definitely on the heftier side. They're very, very, very nice and cozy, very nice and warm. I've tried other brands, heavyweight joggers. These are definitely significantly thicker and, dare I say, nicer quality. I don't necessarily love the fit of these, but I've been wearing these for days on end and they've not killed yet. Other joggers that I have from other brands, especially in heather grey shade, completely bobble after a couple of wears. And whilst I love the fit of them, why am I walking around with completely bobbled joggers after like 3 to 4 wears? It doesn't make sense. I have this sort of thick elasticated waistband at the top here, the eyelets on the outside which are tonal, and then 2 drawstrings on the outside. I know this might be a bit fussy. I don't like these waistbands. I wish it had closer to the Cargo's waistband, which was not quite as clunky looking. Can you see how simple and thin this one looks compared to this one? I just feel like this one looks better in my opinion, but it's just personal preference. And I also don't really love having drawstrings on the outside. I prefer them to be on the inside. You have 2 pockets either side. There's no zip on them, so they literally are just normal pockets, and they do fit an iPhone Pro Max in them. If you were curious about the rise on these is the exact same as the Cargo joggers. So based off of a size small, you get 11 inches on the front rise. So it's nowhere near like the 14 inches that you would see on the Earth Dye joggers, which are obviously a men's fit. It has a much shorter crotch region. It's not a dropped crotch, it's just like a standard jogger crotch. And in terms of the rise, these are going to be sort of like mid to low rise depending on your torso height. Yeah, if you pull these up to be high rise, you'll just get a raging camel toe. And they do have a front seam as well. I feel like you can see here they don't have a super long crotch. They're definitely more of a women's fit. And then as you come into the leg, these are a super wide leg. I'll compare to the cargos in a second, but these are like parachute pants. The main width of these is actually at the bottom of the jogger. It's not around the hip. Now for me personally, I really just like having more room in the hip. It's not that these are tight around the bum, because they're not, but I just wish the same like width and exaggeratedness that had been applied to the bottom was applied around the hip, so that you can really give yourself a nice shape. These are very, very, very wide, but they get wider as they come down. They're not a flare because they're not tight at the top, but they almost have a like wide leg flare element to them, if that makes sense. It's not like, for example, the Origin straight leg joggers, which are very much a straight fit. These ones actually have more of like almost a flare at the bottom, a much wider fit at the bottom, not fitted at the top, but not quite as oversized at the top. And then in terms of comparing these to the cargos, like I just said, they have the exact same crotch measurement in terms of the length there, much more plain on the leg and the detailing, but then also from about the mid thigh, these are 1 to 1.5 inches wider than the cargo pants were. Like these have a significantly wider bottom. I would say the cargos are wide leg. These are like a wide leg with a flare almost. The sizing around the hips is the exact same. I've measured them. Through the leg, it just gets wider. It's almost like it goes from being the same fit and then this one flares out more. In terms of inseam, these are coming in 2 inseams. So I got regular and long, and you guys are gonna laugh when you see me in the long. So for reference, the cargos in a size small are 31.5 inches. My regular inseam for my staple joggers is 31 inches. So to show you those side by side, you can see it's 1/2 inch difference, but they honestly are pretty similar. So if you got the cargos and those were too long for you, the regular in these is also going to be too long for you. And then in terms of the long, oh my god, the long is a 34-inch inseam, which doesn't sound that insane. I think because these don't have a dropped crotch, it really is all leg, are genuinely long, which is good news, because at 5'6" with a 31-inch inseam, there is no reason why every time Alphalete do a pan, I need the long version. Because if I need the long version, what are genuinely tall people meant to do? Because it's definitely not going to fit those people right. The longest jogger, all the other brands that are springing to mind right now, I've tried their longs. These fit longer than those longs. Even with platform Uggs, these are too long in the long for me. So if you are genuinely tall, you are going to really, really, really appreciate the length. And even if you're short, the regular will be too long, because the regular is very much regular in terms of the inseam. And if you got the cargos and they were too long, these will be too long for you as well. But that tall inseam is genuinely tall. I'm honestly pretty impressed by it. I do think, again, Alphalete need a short inseam. If we're going to be offering the inseam options, it's great, because normally we would just get one. Short people are kind of being shafted when it comes to the inseam, so we definitely do need an extra inseam, because regular is going to be too long for a short person. I'm a 31-inch inseam and I actually prefer the regular. It still works for me with a platform Ugg. I just shuffle them down my hips a bit to get a little bit more length out of them, and then for me with a platform Ugg or a chunky trainer, the regular length is perfect for me. If you are curious, never go off height when you are working out what length you need in something. You need to go off your inseam. Two people could be 5'6", but if someone has a 28-inch inseam and someone has a 32-inch inseam, that's a big difference. So grab a measuring tape, go from the inner top of your thigh down to the floor without a shoe on, because you want to know your true inseam, to the floor, see how long that is. That's your inseam, and then you can use that to work out what inseam you need in things. If you know 28-inch inseam, but I always wear a 3-inch platform Ugg every single time I go out, I don't really wear flat shoes, you can probably get the regular, for example. So then you can factor in what shoes you like to wear, how much height they give you, but go off your inseam, not off height. And then in terms of sizing, it really depends how you like your joggers to fit. So I got small and a medium. I actually much prefer how the medium fit. Now the medium look ridiculous because I got medium long and I need medium regular, but in terms of the fit, I do definitely prefer the medium, just because I'm trying to get more room in the hip. The small is actually not tight around the bum, but like kind of nowhere near as oversized as I want it to be through the hip. So for me personally, I much prefer a size up, but just be aware these are very, very, very wide at the bottom, like almost like a wide flare in a jogger. In terms of shrinkage, if you put them in the dryer, they do shrink, but if you just wash them on their normal settings, they don't shrink. You will be completely fine. You're not going to have an issue with them. I think in terms of quality, I'm really happy with these. I really like them. But in terms of joggers, if I'm looking at my entire jogger wardrobe of all the joggers I own, these are definitely probably my favorite from Alphalete, but they're definitely not my favorite in total. And so for me personally, I would probably just buy my joggers from somewhere else. I wouldn't necessarily be running to pick these up. Nothing wrong with the quality. I just really like more room in the hip and a less chunky waistband, drawstrings on the inside, and better colours. I'm really hoping that they bring these out in a short, because I think a lot of people are going to like these. But keep in mind, again, if you live in a hot climate, they're very warm. They'll probably be too warm for you and you probably won't love them. Okay guys, that is everything for this Alphalete review. I'm really hoping that it's been helpful for you guys, and hoping that at the start I was able to explain things from my point of view a little bit more. I definitely didn't want to skirt over the issues they've been having or ignore them. Like I said, I've literally built an entire platform off honest, open, transparent communication, reviews, whatever you want to call it. It'd be very weird for me to just sit and say nothing, and I have been directly impacted by the changes. Gutted, to be completely honest, and I'm really hoping that they are able to make big improvements this year, because they definitely need to, and to be honest, they can't afford not to anymore. I also just want to say, if you are still here supporting me but you don't support Alphalete anymore, or maybe you just anymore, or it doesn't really resonate with you, I just want you to know that I appreciate you so much for sticking around. And even if Alphalete do make changes this year, I fully acknowledge for a lot of people it's going to be too little too late, and I fully acknowledge that. I think everyone has the capacity to change, every brand has the capacity to change, but just because a brand has changed, it doesn't mean you have to give them another chance. Like I said, the diversity issues, long-standing issues, it's not like it's something that's just cropped up in 2025, being a long-standing issue. And so please know that I take no personal offense to you being like, actually this is too little too late for me. I completely get it, and I just appreciate that so many of you have still stuck around even though you're not interested in brand anymore. Like I said, I've just got myself into, out of my own actions, a really sticky situation, and yeah, we're gonna work it out. We're gonna see what this year has in store. Hopefully that was helpful. If you've got any questions about the drop, please just let me know. Any questions about Alphalete, let me know. I'll see if I can answer it and help you out. Other than that, I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to and you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.